The SEC Media Days roster has been unveiled. What do we think about Auburn's lineup?
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
So we're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie 5, and we are ready to get after a happy Wednesday. The SEC Media Days Auburn roster, players that will be attending, has been released, along with every other team's list in the SEC as well. We're going to talk about the list. Do we like it? Do we think we like all the decisions? There's one change I would like to make. We'll talk about that as well. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Robback.com. Use coupon code BARN20 to take 20% off your order. You've seen me wearing it. The stuff feels good. The stuff looks good. And then you can take advantage and save 20% off this order, the next order, and every order. And so they just shut our coupon code down, which I don't see happening. So no matter what you like, they got it. You can go as zany as you want. You can go as classic as you want. Show them some love. It's Robback.com. Auburn releases their list along with every other school, like I mentioned. Jackson Arnold, Keldrick Faulk, and a little bit of a surprise, Connor Lew. Good stuff. Look, on the surface, I love the list. You can't beat it. I think you can beat it, but it's hard to argue. I think there's a good argument for everybody on there. Okay, I think it's a big statement to take Jackson. I say a big statement. Only 5 schools in the SEC aren't taking quarterback. But what you're saying is, hey, this is our guy. We know that he went to SEC Media Days last year. And we know that the perception is that he did struggle last year, but we know that the perception is what it is in regards to him. We're not going to discuss the roster situation he was in last year or the whole offensive situation, in its entirety. People don't look that deep. They just look at, Auburn's bringing their quarterback that struggled last year. That's a move. But I think it just shows the confidence that Hugh has in Jackson to kind of put him as the face. If you got a quarterback that's, worth sort of representing the team, you got to take him. So I wondered with some of the verbiage that Hugh used when he talks about confidence. He really preaches confidence when it comes to Jackson, and the way you'd never want to leave a practice without the quarterback feeling confident. You never want to do this. You never want to do that. You don't want to do things that could shake the quarterback's confidence. That's the only reason why I thought that Jackson may not go. Because I kind of feel like he's probably going to be peppered about last year. He's probably going to be asked a lot of questions about last year. And how will he respond? I'm probably overthinking it. But you know what? That's what season we're in. We're in overthinking season. But I think he'll do well. I think he will represent Auburn very, very well. He did good last year. I thought Oklahoma had him a stud. He carries himself really well. Going into a season, he makes you feel, just by his presence and the way he carries himself, he makes you feel like whoever has him has a pretty good quarterback. So Jackson was no real big surprise at all. Keldrick Faulk is another one that's not really that big of a surprise at all. Honestly, any list I made started with Keldrick Faulk. And then we had discussions over, you could have discussions over the next two. If this season comes off like the way we think it is, and it sort of sets the tone of something moving in a really positive direction, I don't think you can really look any further as far as the catalyst goes than Keldrick Faulk, especially if he has the year that I think he's going to have this year, and he fulfills the pre-season hype and pre-draft mock board hype, and he can finish into that, and he can go in that top, that first round of the draft next year. I think that's someone you can point to and say, that guy started it all. There's no doubt about it. That was Hugh's very first big get on the recruiting trail, flipping a longtime Florida State commit, five-star guy. And then not only do you get a five-star guy, but you're able to develop him and get him to his full potential, so much so that by the third year you have success on the field and the guy gets to the draft. I think you can point to that and say, look, we got that guy in 5 minutes. These other guys, we've spent so much time in working these relationships. Like, it's clear we know what we're doing. If that's the case, to me, Keldrick Faulk is one you remember forever. Keldrick Faulk's one that you pencil in as one of those cataclysmic Auburn guys that changed the culture. He could be that guy. And he's one that you'd be so proud that represents you. Like, you're not worried about him embarrassing you. You're not worried about him making mistakes. He's just a solid dude. Any list for SEC Media Days that I made, that guy was number one. That guy was number one on my list. Connor Lew is one that I totally understand. And Connor Lew is also one that you could point to and say he was part of that cornerstone that changed things. He was a similar story. You go in and you get a big flip in 5 minutes, basically. You get here. There's legendary stories about the blessing. Whenever, I was hanging out with some guys on staff. This was a while back, and there's some legendary stories about when Hugh went in home with Connor Lew and he said the blessing, and that it was like he brought the house down for the blessing. And then, like, shortly after that Connor Lew flips. Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall in a lot of these recruiting stories that are told over and over again. They used to do this Auburn series. Maybe he only did it a couple of times, where it was just a bunch of old players in a room, and like an auditorium, and they all just told stories. I would love for Auburn to kind of make that a tradition. I think that would be fantastic to listen to, but for stuff like this, because I can't get enough. Anyway, I kind of digress. I kind of got off topic a little bit. But Connor Lew, obviously, part of that cornerstone of flipping the script, who also is getting a ton of preseason draft love. You're talking about one of the top 5 interior linemen on a lot of people's boards going into the next year. And that pretty much locks you in for, at least second round. And you know what? That's not super far above what your peak is as an interior lineman. Unfortunately, those just aren't the most highly desirable positions. So if you can get into the second round, if you can get a second round grade as an interior lineman, you pretty much better take it, because that's about as high as you're going to get. And who knows, depending on need, you could sneak into the first round. It's not impossible. So from all that standpoint, I totally get it. I totally get Connor Lew. There's one little thing, though, that I'm a little bit concerned about, and we'll talk about that in just a second. We'll be back right after this. This is very, very low on the concerns, okay? So do not misconstrue this, okay? Do not overinflate this. I worry about Connor Lew as an interview. I worry about Connor Lew as the charismatic, having the charisma, the charismatic guy that you want up there. He's very business. He's all business. Not a lot of lengthy answers. Not mega bubbly. And you know what? I don't want my offensive linemen bubbly. I want them mean. I want them to where they look like they don't want to be there. They feel uncomfortable in a suit. I want my offensive linemen to give one-word answers. I want my offensive linemen to look agitated. So I don't know. From an interview standpoint, I wonder, he may be great again. He may be great. So that's the only knock that I would have on taking Connor Lew. Just from if you want to have a bubbly personality up there to, say some fun things, I don't think you're going to get that out of him. But otherwise, I think he's going to represent Auburn great. And he is cut from the cloth of these traditional offensive linemen that you think about when you think about old school Auburn offensive line. And you're fired up to have him, man. What a blessing. What a blessing. And we're making it a foregone conclusion he's going to go into the draft. I mean, he may want to stay another year. And then you'd had this guy for like 4 solid years as your anchor. He's a good pick. Here's the one that I'm good with Jackson Arnold, and I'm good with all of them, but I'm really good with Arnold and Faulk, okay? But one guy I think you got to take, in my opinion, is Cam Coleman. I just feel like Cam Coleman, as much as I just gushed over Keldrick Faulk, by no fault of him, defensive guys just don't quite get the hype that offensive guys get. If you're an elite quarterback or if you're an elite wide receiver, you're a rock star. And Cam Coleman getting a top 10 overall player in the country and have him perform and be sort of the focal point, that potential first-round wide receiver draft pick who's got all the measurables, all the talent, all the catch radius, and on top of that, he's got the charisma to go with it. He's a fun interview. You never know what he's going to say. He says a lot of fun things. He comes up with catchphrases. I think I take Cam Coleman. And I may take him in place of Connor Lew. Again, not mad at it. I just think you want to put the guys that you're going to get the most eyeballs on up there. And I think Cam Coleman would draw a ton of attention. I think he'd draw a ton of people to the room. And by no fault of Connor Lew, I think that's just a not super sexy pick to take with you to SEC Media Days. Cam Coleman could bring the house down. Surprisingly, though, I would have thought Alabama takes Ryan Williams. But they don't. They take 2 linemen and a linebacker. I mean, I guess it just depends on what you want to get out of SEC Media Days. Is it just who can I take up there that's not going to screw anything up? Who's going to not say too much? Who can I trust to just stick to the plan and let's get in and get out? who can go in and it's 100% business. If that's your goal, then, maybe, taking 2 linemen and a linebacker makes a ton of sense. But, man, from a marketing standpoint, from a hype standpoint, I feel like Alabama missed the mark there. And maybe, you can argue with me in the comments. I don't care. Maybe Auburn missed the mark there. I'm not taking Cam. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10 of seriousness, though, this is like a -5, okay? It's not even on the chart of how not serious this is when I talk about missing the mark or like a mistake. I just love Cam Coleman, man. I love him in the media. I love him talking to reporters. I love the player he is, what he means to Auburn. I just would have loved to seen Cam Coleman up there talking about that one-handed catch against Louisiana Monroe. Talking about how he feels going into his sophomore year, what it's like playing with, what's it going to be like with Eric Singleton beside you. Stuff like that. And we've all heard it. But hey, that's my one little gripe. Otherwise, love the list. I think the list is phenomenal. And here's another thing. 2 of those guys are from Hugh's first recruiting class. And 2 of those guys could play their way into the NFL draft this year from high school, which I think is obviously the goal. You want to have – you're going to utilize the portal, but you want to have homegrown talent. And there's your 2 homegrowns right there out of the 3 that you brought in your very, very first class. You haven't really gotten off the plane good, and you went and landed those guys, and look what they turned out to be. So if that's any indication of the caliber of guys you're continuing to bring in from high school as far as evaluation goes, if you can get this year turned around, man, you could have 3 or 4 really, really good classes going into next year. And then you're just kind of, hey, then we're at the point where we're reloading and not rebuilding. Good stuff, man. Auburn SEC Media Days kicks off next week. I'm not sure Auburn's day. Seems like they said the 15th. I think that's correct. That's what the graphic that Auburn put out said. Now, I don't know if that means that's when SEC Media Day starts or that's Auburn's day, but let's see. Yeah, I think it just says, I don't know. I have to look at the schedule. I think it just says July 15th. That may just be the day it all starts, not necessarily Auburn's day, but we'll confirm that. And gosh, we got a week. We got a week to talk about it. So let me know what you think about the list. Is there anybody else you would have liked to have seen Auburn take, or did they pick them all right? 100% nailed it. A+. Let me know what you think in the comments. Guys, I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.